Let us solve the 2023 WASSCE Mathematics Core 2 question, the section B part. Now the section B has 8 questions which you are required to solve 5 of that 8. But I'll be showing you how to solve the entire 8 questions that we have in the section B of 2023 General Math WASSCE Core 2 questions. This is the first question we have there, question 6A and B. The A part tells us that given that M consists of this element of n, where it is 2n minus 3 less or equal to 37, where n is a counting number. So we have to write down all the elements in M. And then secondly, if a number is selected at random from M, what is the probability that it is a, first, multiple of 3, and then factor of 10. Let's solve that. Now, recall that the elements of M consist of n, which are counting numbers. But to solve that, we have to first solve this inequality, where we have 2n minus 3 is less or equal to 37. What this means is that 2n is less or equal to 37 plus 3. And then when we solve this, we then see that 2n is less or equal to 40. And then when you divide both sides by 2, n is less or equal to 20. What this means is that for the first part, where we are asked to write down all the elements in M, remember that the elements of M consist of n, which are counting number, and it is less or equal to 20, that is numbers before 20. And we have to look at the natural numbers, that is from 1 all the way to 20. So we then say M equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and until 20. And these are the elements of M. Now we have solved this first part. Now we progress to the next one. We are told that if a number is selected at random from M, what is the probability that it is a alpha, multiple of 3? Let us list out all the multiples of 3 that falls within this range. Remember, any multiple of 3 that is above 20 will not be found in this element selected here. So that is multiples of 3 that are less or equal to 20. Let's list them out. That is, you're going to be having 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18. So to solve that part, alpha, the probability that it is a multiple of 3, the probability there is going to be given by the number of expected outcomes. That is, what are the multiples of 3 that we can find in this group here? Remember, it ranges up till 20. And what we have here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the only 6 that we can find within this group. Please don't get this wrong. When we say multiples of 3, they go on forever. They do not stop at this point. We have just stopped here because what we are working with is a set that goes all the way to just 20. So here we have found that we have 6 here. So expected outcome is 6 divided by total of the outcomes that we have here. And all the numbers we have in M are 20. So that will be 6 over 20. And never leave your fraction in this kind of form. Always break it down to its lowest possible term. So here we can see that they are both divisible by 2. So when we divide them by 2, this would give us 3 over 10. And that's for the alpha part. Now let's do for beta. Now beta says the probability that it is a factor of 10. Now let's list out all the possible factors of 10. Factors of 10. They include 1, 2, 5, and 10. These are the factors of 10. That is, numbers that can divide 10 without remainders. So now that we have the expected outcome, let's then find the probability. The probability here is then, now how many elements do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 out of 20 elements in M. So 4 over 20, which is, now they are both divisible by 4. So 4 divided by 4 gives us 1, and 20 divided by 4 will give us 5. So for the A part, we have solved listing out the elements in M. We have found the probability that when you pick an element, it would be the multiples of 3 and then factors of 10. Now let's solve for 6b. Question 6b says, a shop owner gave an end of year bonus to 2 of his attendees, Contour and Gabson, in the ratio of their ages. Now, Gabson's age is 1.5 times that of Contour, who is 20 years old. If Contour received 200,000 LEs, now this LE here is telling us of the currency they are working in. Find first the total amount shared, and then secondly, Gabson's share. So to solve this, we are going to pick this line here, which tells us that Gabson's age is 1.5 times that of Contour. That is, the age of Gabson equals 1 whole number 1 over 2 of Contour. Now recall that we are told that Contour is 20 years old. That is, Gabson's age, G, equals, now 1.5 is the same thing as having 3 over 2 when we write it as an improper fraction. And then we multiply this by Contour's age, which is 20 years. So G here then becomes, now 2 goes in 20 10 times, and 10 multiplied by 3 would give us 30 years. This tells us that Gabson is 30 years old, while Contour is 20 years old. And the question says that the amount was shared in the ratio of their ages. So the ratio is then 30 ratio 20. And this is divisible by 10. That is, we can then write it as 3 ratio 2. Now, the first part says we should find the total amount shared if Contour received 200,000. So let's find Contour's share. Contour's share would have been given as 2, which is his own part of the ratio, divided by the sum of the ratio. 3 plus 2 would give us 5. So this is 2 over 5 multiplied by the total amount shared. So since we don't know that, let's call that T, total amount, right? And all of this gives us his share, which is given in the question as 200,000. So when we linearize this, we will find that 2t equals 5 multiplied by 200,000. And then when we divide both sides by 2, we can then find the total amount, which we are asked to find. So the total amount will then be given by 2 year 1, 2 in 200,000 will give us 100,000. And then 5 multiplied by 100,000 will give us 500,000. And that's the total amount that was shared. That is just for the first part. Now the second part, we have to find Gabson's share. Now Gabson's share is 3 out of the ratio, so Gabson's share would be given as 3 over 5 multiplied by the total amount, which is 500,000. And this would give us, now 5 year 1, 5 in 500,000 will give us 100,000. And 3 multiplied by 100,000 will give us 300,000. Now when you're writing your answer, always put it in the currency. That is, in this case, this would be LE of 500,000 and this would be LE of 300,000. And that's how we solve question 6A and B. Now let's solve question 7. Question 7A says the sum of three numbers is 81. The second number is twice the first. Then given that the third number is 6 more than the second, find the numbers. Note that the proper interpretation of a question like this is the first step to solving it correctly. So we start by saying let the three numbers be x, y, and z. The numbers be x, y, and z. And the question tells us that x plus y plus z equals 81. Note it says the sum of three numbers. Now, it then goes on to give us more insight about these individual numbers that are adding up to give us 81. We are told that the second number is twice of the first. And the second number here is y. Y equals 2x. Right? And then it goes on to tell us about the third number. It says given that the third number is 6 more than the second, that is the third number, which is z, equals to y plus 6. Right? Now recall that we have already seen that y equals 2x. Now this implies that z equals, that instead of y here, I will then have 2x, right? Then plus 6. So now we have a definition for each of these numbers in terms of x. So all we need to do is now add this together and give our answer as 81. Therefore, x plus y plus z equals 81 can then be written as x plus, now what is y? Y is 2x plus z. Z is 2x plus 6. And all of this equals 81. Now, x plus 2x gives us 5x plus 6 equals 81. So 5x equals 81 minus 6. So 5x equals 75. Now divide both sides by 5. And then x equals, now 5 in 7, that is 1, remember 2. In 25, we have 5. So x is 25. Then y equals 2x, which is 2 multiplied by 15 to give us 30. And then z equals y plus 6, which is 30 plus 6 to give us 36. So now we know x is 15, y is 30, and z is 36. And that is for 7a. Now let's solve 7b. 7b says given the point P, that is 3, 5, and Q minus 5, 7 on the Cartesian plane such that R, X, and Y is the midpoint of PQ. Find the equation of the line that passes through R and perpendicular to PQ. To solve this, we'll start by finding let's start by getting the slope of this line, right? So the original line, the slope of PQ, let's write that as M1. Now remember, this is slope of PQ, right? Now M1 is supposed to be, now if you look at these two coordinates that we are given, these are in X and Y. We can tell that this is lower than this, so therefore this will be our X1, this is our X2, and this will be our Y2, Y1, Y2. So X1, Y1, X2, Y2. You can choose whichever one you want to work with. I just use the number that is lesser for me here because they didn't tell us the direction it is. To get this right, you actually have to draw. And when you draw, you will see which one is the x1 and y1, which will also look like what we have here. So working with this, our slope will then be given as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is, now our y2 is 5 minus y1 is 7 all over x2, which is 3 minus x1, which is minus 5. So what we have here is minus 2 over, now minus times minus gives us plus, so 3 plus 5, that is 8, which can then be written as negative 1 over 4. Now we've gotten the slope for the first line, which is PQ, right? So in order to find the next one, we have to find the position for R, right? To get our R is going to be the midpoint of line PQ, right? So that is, we're going to be having the average of x, comma, the average of y, that is x2 plus x1 over 2, comma, y2 plus y1, comma, over 2. So let's find our R then. So R is then given by, now what is x2? x2 is 3. So we're going to be having 3 plus x1, which is minus 5. So minus 5 over 2, comma. Now y2 is 5 plus y1, which is 7 over 2. So R here is then given by, this will give us 3 minus 5. So 3 minus 5 will give us minus 2 over 2, comma. Here we're going to be having 5 plus 7, which is 12 over 2. So here we can then see that our R is minus 1, comma 6. Now to get the slope for this line here, we'll have our M2 to be negative 1 of M1, negative 1 over M1. So that is what we have here is minus 1 over. Now what is M1? M1 is what we have solved here, which is minus 1 over 4. So if we tidy this up, we see that M2 equals 4, right? And the question asks us to find the equation of the line. And the equation of the line is given as y equals mx plus c, where this m here is our M2 in this case, right? So we already have the value of M2. We need to find the value of c. So to get c, what do? We can then do our delta y equals M2 delta x plus c. So taking this, we can then say, recall now, what did we get as our line for R? Minus 1 and 6. That is, y equals 6 and x equals minus 1, right? So we replace y with 6 and then x with minus 1. So what do we have then? We then have 6 equals M2, which is 4, into bracket x, which is minus 1 plus c, right? That is 6 equals minus 4 plus c. So from here we can then see that c equals 6 plus 4, which is 10. So when we rewrite the equation of this line, we can then say y equals m, which is 4, x plus c, which is 10. And this is the equation of the line. With that, we have solved question 7. Question 8 starts by telling us to copy and complete the table of values for y equals 2x squared minus x minus 4. For when we have minus 3 less or equal to x less or equal to 3. And then it goes on to give us this incomplete table. However, take note, sometimes this incomplete table may not be given to you and you will have to draw it out yourself. So how to know where to start from x and where to end your values of x depends on this inequality you are given. Now, two things you need to pay attention to: the numbers and of course the sign. So here you see we have less or equal to. That means that x here can be equal to minus 3 or less. Therefore, we are going to start from minus 3. And then the end, which is this other right hand side, we see that x is less or equal to 3. That is, it cannot be more than 3, but it can be 3 or less. So that is why it is plus 3 here. So if the equation there changes, or the inequality rather changes, such that what you have here is not less or equal. If you have just less than, it means it cannot be up to this, right? So like if we have negative 3 less than x, then you will not start from negative 3 here, you will start from negative 2, right? So that is why you have to pay attention to the inequality sign. But in this question, there is no cause for alarms because the table has been given. So we just have to complete this part for y. So let's fill it out. So we start with when x equals minus 3. Then we get the value of y by using the equation. What that implies is that y equals 2 into, now what is x? X is minus 3, right? Then squared. Then minus x, which is minus 3. Remember we say when x is minus 3, right? Then minus 4. Now let's solve for y here. So y equals 2, open bracket. Now minus 3 squared will give us 9. Then minus times minus, that is plus 3 minus 4. So here we see y equals 18 plus 3 minus 4, and this would give us 17. So we fill that in here. So that is when x is minus 3, y is 17. Now we progress to the next. When x equals minus 2. So y would then be 2, open bracket, minus 2 squared minus, open bracket, minus 2, and then minus 4. So y equals 2 into minus 2 squared, that is minus 2 times minus 2, that gives us 4. And then plus 2, because minus times minus gives us plus, and then we have minus 4. So here y equals 8 plus 2 minus 4. So 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 minus 4 would give us 6. Now, when x equals minus 1. Now, what we'll have here is y equals 2 into bracket minus 1 squared minus, open bracket, minus 1, then minus 4. So here we see y equals 2 into bracket minus 1 squared gives us 1. Then minus times minus, that's plus 1, then minus 4. So what we have here is y equals 2 plus 1 minus 4. And this would give us minus 1. Now let's solve for when x equals 0. That is, y becomes 2 into 0 squared minus 0, then minus 4. Now this will give you 0. So what we basically have here is 0 minus 4. So what we have here is minus 4. Now when x is 1, y equals 2 into 1 squared minus 1 minus 4. So y equals 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2, we have 2 minus 1 minus 4. So this is 2 minus 5, which is minus 3. Now, when x is 2. Y equals 2 into x, which is 2 squared minus, open bracket, 2, and then minus 4. So y equals, now 2 squared would give us 4. 4 times 2, and we have 8. 8 minus 2 minus 4, right? And then 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. Then when x equals 3. What we'll have there is y equals 2 into 3 squared minus 3 minus 4. And this would give us Now 3 squared is 9. 9 times 2, we have 18, minus 3 minus 4. So minus 3 minus 4 is minus 7. And 18 minus 7 gives us 11. So now we have all the corresponding values of y when x ranges from minus 3 to plus 3. The B part of this question requires us to plot a graph given a particular scale. And then the C part asks us to find the roots of the equation and some other things like that. So I'll be showing you how to do that in a separate video. Now let us solve question 9. Question 9 starts with a table and then says the table shows the height of thick trees harvested by a farmer. Now the A part says to find the median height. That is the median height of these trees. Now, before you solve questions like this, I advise that you read it to the end so that you know whether you have to process this table and what are the kind of values you should have in your new table. So the B part then says, calculate correct to one decimal place, the mean and standard deviation. So you see here that we're going to get up to mean and then standard deviation. And if you recall, mean x bar is summation fx over summation f. And then our standard deviation is given by the square root of summation f into x minus x bar all squared over summation f. So that is, our new table must have all of these variables in that new table. So let's process this table to have all of these things, okay? So we'll start by writing first our x. Now, x here refers to the height of thick trees, right? And the heights are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 meters. Now, the frequency, f. That is the number of trees with this height in meters. So we are having it as 4, 6, 4, 5, 6, and 2. So other things that ought to be in our table include fx, and then we're going to have x minus x bar, and then x minus x bar in brackets squared, and then f into x minus x bar in brackets squared, which will be what completes our table. So let's get our fx before we then go on to solve the A part. So fx simply means we multiply x and f, right? So 3 multiplied by 4 gives us 12. 4 multiplied by 6, that's 24. 5 multiplied by 4, 20. 6 multiplied by 5, that's 30. 7 multiplied by 6, that's 42. And then 8 multiplied by 2, and then we have 16. Now, another thing that we need to do is to find the summation of some of those important parts, right? Like we need summation f here, we need summation fx, right? We need summation of f into x minus x bar in brackets all squared. So we need the sum here, and then the sum here. So let's find the sum of frequency here. 4 plus 6, that's 10. And then we have 4 here, then 6, that's another 10, making 20, plus 5 and 2, so we have 27 here. So now let's sum this other part. So we have 12 plus 24 plus 20 plus 30 plus 42 plus 16. And all of that gives us 144, right? So before we go on to process this other part, we need to find our x bar, right? Which is part of the B question. So we can't do that without first solving A. So let's solve A. Now A says find the median height. To find your median height, you have to find the median class first. And the formula for median class is given by n minus 1 over 2. Now take note, when your total frequency is less than 50 is when we use this. But when it is above 50, it is just simply n divided by 2, right? So in this case, what we have here is n being a cumulative frequency. So we have it as 27. So 27 minus 1 divided by 2. So we then have this as 26 divided by 2, which would give us 13. So we look for the class where frequency 13 is going to fall. So let's add this up. 4 plus 6, that's 10. Plus 4, that's 14. That is 13 lies here. This is our median class. Right? So that is our median equals the height at this point, which is 5. Remember, it is in meters, so 5 meters. Now we solved the A part. Now let's go to B. Now B, the first part of B says we should find the mean. So I. Mean, which is often denoted x bar, is written as summation fx over summation f. Right? So, and this would give us, now summation fx, we have gotten that as 144. So that is our x bar is 144 divided by summation f, which is 27. Now, remember we are told to do this to one decimal place, correct to one decimal place. So let's solve this. 144 divided by 27. And that will give us 5.333 on and on like that. That is, x bar is then 5.3 to one decimal place. Now we've gotten the mean. Let's find standard deviation. Our standard deviation is given by the formula square root of summation f into x minus x bar in brackets squared all over summation f. So let's find all these other values. So we come here and look for x minus x bar. What does this mean? The x here is 3. So we say 3 minus our x bar, which is 5.3. And then we go on like that until we are done with this. So we start with the first one. So we have 3 minus 5.3, which would give us minus 2.3. Then we go on. 4 minus 5.3 will give us minus 1.3. 5 minus 5.3 will give us minus 0.3. 6 minus 5.3 will give us 0.7. 7 minus 5.3 will give us 1.3. 1.7, I mean. 1.7. And then 8 minus 5.3 would give us 2.7. So now we've gotten x minus x bar. So we need to find the square of this, right? Now remember, when you are squaring, everything is in the bracket. That means the negative sign will become positive, right? So minus 2.3 all in bracket squared would give us 5.29. Then we continue with the rest. 1.3, right? And this is 1.69. Now 0.3 squared, that is 0.09. Now 0.7 squared, that should give us 0.49. Now 1.7 squared, that would give us 2.89. And then 2.7 squared, that is 7.29. Now this other part means we have to multiply what we have here by the frequency. So 4 multiplied by this, 6 multiplied by this, and on like that. So we start with 4 multiplied by 5.29, and that would give us 21.16. Then to the next one, we have 6 multiplied by 1.69. And that is 10.14. Now 4 multiplied by 0.09. And that would give us 0.36. And then 5 multiplied by 0.49. And that is 1.96. Now 6 multiplied by 2.89. This is 17.34. And then 2 multiplied by 7.29. And this is 14.58. Now we go on to sum all of these together to get our summation of f into x minus x bar in bracket squared. So we have 21.16 plus 10.14 plus 0.36 plus 1.96 plus 17.34 plus 14.58. And when we add all of this together, we have 65.54. Now we can then go on to find our standard deviation. This would be the square root of summation of f into x minus x bar, which is 65.54 divided by summation f, which is 27, and this will give us square root of, so here we have 2.427. So that is standard deviation equals the square root of our answer there, and what we have is 1.558, which is 1.6 to 1 decimal place. And that's the solution to question 9. Now let's solve question 10. In a town, Chief X resides 60 meters away on a bearing of 57 degrees from the palace P, while Chief Y resides on a bearing of 150 degrees from the same palace P. The residents of X and Y are 180 meters apart. A. Illustrate the information in a diagram. Then B. Find, correct the 3 significant figures, the Roman figure 1, bearing of X from Y, and then Roman figure 2, distance between P and Y. Now, this is a typical bearing question, and you have to take note that the bearing we are given here is in 3-digit bearing, right? Another way to give the bearing is the surveyor method, where you have your north, south, east, and west, right? So depending on whichever one you are given. So we're going to work with this using the 3-digit bearing method. So remember, the first part says we should illustrate this information in a diagram. Now, what we need to take note of is that what we see, we have 057 degrees as the first bearing we are given. That is, the residence of Chief X has to be, now 057 lies where? That is the northeast of the palace. So when you are drawing the Cartesian for your palace, ensure that it is drawn in a position where you can find a place that is northeast of it, and that you would have 60 meters drawn there. And then another thing to note is that the next one is 150 degrees, which is what? Southeast, so that it will proceed downwards now. And this time the line there is different, right? So we have to just ensure that when we are drawing this, we follow this information exactly. Now, take note. No one is expecting you to draw it perfectly. It doesn't have to be drawn to scale. It just has to represent the majority of the information that has been given in the question. So let's draw it. So if this is my palace P, indicate that with this Cartesian. You know this is then north, south, east, and west. Now we know that Chief X is residing 60 meters away on a bearing of 57. Now if this is 0, as we progress, this will be 90. So 57 should lie somewhere here. So you draw a line like so. And note that this is what? 57 degrees. 057. 057 degrees. To the residence of Chief X, right? And this distance is given as what? From the question, 60 meters away. Now, the next part of the question then tells us that Chief Y resides on a bearing of 150 degrees. So if we progress here, with this being 0, and this being 180. 150 should lie somewhere here. So we continue like this. Do not mind the line. Like so. Okay? Now that's a bit too long. So let me just end it here. As Chief Y's residence, right? So now that we have our Chief Y residence, we are not given the distance, but we know the entire bearing all the way like this is 150 degrees. I'll still interpret this here, so just hold on. So now all we need to do is just join Chief X and Chief Y's residence together like so. Now, please take note, this is not drawn to scale. Trying to draw the line as straight as possible here. So, what we have here is the diagram, right? So now let's interpret what we have here. We see that we are having a diagram that looks like this, with this being palace, this being residence of Chief X, and this being residence of Chief Y. Now, the whole of this is 150 degrees, right? And out of 150 degrees, 57 is already taken out here. So 150 minus 57 will give us this angle here. And 150 minus 57 is going to give us 93. Now, another thing we need to take note is that now, you see that the angle that we have here, we can get it. If the whole of this is 90 and this is 57, 57 out of 90 will leave us with 33 here. Right? And if this is 93, it means that if you take 33 out of 93, you would have 60 here. Right? Now, one thing we need to take note of is that we can have what we call alternate angles here. Right? I can draw something like this and then indicate that this place, right, is equal to this place. So that is what we have here is 60 degrees. I don't know what this angle is yet, but I know that this is 60 degrees. So that is, if I'm calling the bearing from Y here, this is 90, this is another 90, this is another 90, and then this is 60 degrees. So these are just some of the informations that we can see loosely from here. Another thing we can see is that this angle here, we can get this part here because it's alternate to this place. So this is 33 degrees. So we don't know if we're going to need all of this yet, but illustrating this in a diagram, you have to put this diagram and then this diagram. Now let's complete the rest of this diagram. So here we are given this as 60 meters, and we are told that the residence of X and Y are 180 meters apart. That is, this part here is 180 meters. So hence this place is also 180 meters. So there we have it. We have illustrated this in a diagram. Now B says, find correct to three significant figures the bearing of X from Y. That is, we're going to start from Y and find the bearing of X. That is, we are looking for the whole of this angle. We first need this angle here, right? Now take note, we already have 90 here. 90 here, 90, that is, we have 270 plus this angle here and this 60. So plus 60 plus Y is what we are going to get our bearing. So that is, our bearing of X from Y equals 270 degrees plus, now this 60 degrees plus Y. So we need to find this angle here. So in order to find this angle here, we're going to apply the sine rule. Okay? Now, according to sine rule, we can have this angle here. Let's indicate that with sine Y over the opposite distance, which is 60 meters. We'll equate with, then we do the same thing with this. That is sine P, which is 93 degrees over 180 meters. So sine y therefore becomes 60 meters multiplied by sine 93 degrees over 180 meters. Now let's compute this. So we have 60 multiplied by sine 93, and then we divide our answer by 180 meters. So what we have is 0.3329. Write it at least to 4 decimal places. So that is y becomes sine inverse of 0.3329. So when we compute sine inverse of our answer, we're going to have 19.44, right, in degrees. But the question says to 3 significant figures. So that is y is then 19.4 degrees to 3SF. Now, remember the question says bearing of x from y. So the bearing of x from y therefore becomes, from this equation that we have written before, which is 270 degrees plus 60 degrees plus y now, which is 19.4 degrees. Now when we add all of this together, what do we have? 19.4 plus 60 plus 270. And that gives us 349.4 degrees. That solves the first part of B. Now let's get to the second part. The second part says we should find the distance between P and Y. That is this distance here. So we're going to call that small x. So in order to find this small x, we need this angle here now. Right? So to get this angle, we already know this is 19.4. And sum of angles in a triangle is 180, right? So when we add these two and we subtract it from 180, we should get x. So let's get the value of x. So we have 180 minus the sum of 93 and 19.4. And that would give us 67.6 degrees as x. So now that we've gotten x, we can then find this distance here, py. Right? To get py, we're going to apply the cosine rule. So that is py in brackets squared should give us, now we're going to apply the cosine rule, that is we're going to be having 60 squared plus 180 squared minus 2 times 60 times 180, and then all of this multiplied by the cosine of this angle here, which is 67.4 degrees. So that is py squared becomes, now let's simplify this. So 60 squared plus 180 squared would give us 36,000 minus, now when we compute this, what do we have? 2 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 180 multiplied by cosine of 67.4, and that gives us 8,300.78, right? So that is py squared equals, now when we find the difference here, 36,000 minus 8,300.78. That will give us 27,699.22. And this implies that py equals the square root of this, which is 27,699.22. So py equals, now find the square root of our answer there, and then we have it as 166.43 in meters. Now, since it is to 3 significant figures, that is, this is 166 meters. And that's the solution to question 10. Now let us solve question 11. The A part says 2 regular polygons P and Q are such that the number of sides of P is twice the number of sides of Q. The difference between the exterior angle of Q and P is 45 degrees. Find the number of sides of P. Now, some of the things you need to take note here is that we are looking at regular polygons, right? And one of the things about regular polygons is that all the exterior angles are equal. And the sum of exterior angles of polygons is 360, right? So if we are talking about polygon P and polygon Q, their exterior angles, when summed together, you should get 360 for each of them, right? But some of the information we are given is that the number of sides, right, for polygon P is twice the number of sides of polygon Q. So if number of sides, so let number of sides of P equals n, that is, number of sides of Q would then be what? 2. Sorry? P is twice of Q. So that is, if Q is n, that is, P should be 2n, right? So let the number of sides for Q be n, and then the number of sides for P would then be twice of Q, which is 2n. So now that we've interpreted that part, we can then go on to solve the rest. So we are told that the difference between the exterior angles of Q and P is 45. Now, how do we find the exterior angle of a regular polygon? Now, exterior angle of a regular polygon is 360 degrees divided by the number of sides. So that is, we're going to now compute for the exterior angle of Q and then minus the exterior angle for P. So exterior angle of Q would be given as 360 degrees divided by, now number of sides for Q is n, minus, now that for P, it will be what? 360 degrees over 2n. And this should give us 45 degrees. So let's go on to solve this. If we take LCM, we have 2n, and then this would give us 2 multiplied by 360, that is 720 degrees, minus, here we have 360 degrees, and all of this equals 45 degrees. Now let's carry this over here. So when we cross multiply, the difference here would give us 360 degrees equals, now we have 2 times 45, which is 90 degrees, and n. So that is, n therefore becomes 360 degrees divided by 90 degrees, which would give us 4, right? That tells us that Q has 4 sides. So the number of sides for P would then be twice of Q, which is 2 times 4. And this would give us 8. So therefore, P has 8 sides. So now we know that P is an octagon, while Q is a quadrilateral. Now, having solved for 11A, let's then proceed to solve for 11B. 11B says the area of a semicircle is 32 pi centimeters squared. Find in terms of pi the circumference of the semicircle. So let's say we have a semicircle here. The circumference would be half of the circumference of a circle plus d. We know that this distance here is the diameter. So we're going to add diameter and this, the length of this arc, right? So that's what we are asked to find. So let's call this A, right? The length of this arc. Now, we're already given the area of the semicircle. Now, area of semicircle is supposed to be half of area of a circle, which is pi r squared. So now that is pi r squared over 2 equals this area we are given, which is 32 pi, right? So from there we can say our r squared equals 32 pi multiplied by 2 all over pi. So we see that pi cancels pi and r squared would give us 64, which implies that r equals square root of 64, which would give us, of course, plus or minus. But we're going to take the positive part, so we're going to be having 8, right? And since it's in centimeter here, this will be centimeter as well. Centimeter square becomes centimeter. Now we have our radius and diameter. D equals 2 of r. So that is 2 multiplied by 8 centimeters. And this would give us 16 centimeters. Now, to find the circumference, that is the entire of this length, now we need to find A, right? Circumference of a semicircle is supposed to be half of the circumference of a circle, right? Then we now add the diameter to it. So that is, the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, right? So, and when we divide that by 2, we'll have pi r, right? Plus the diameter. And the diameter here is what? 16 centimeters. So let's put this together. Our r is, from the question, we've gotten it as 8, right? So that is 8 pi plus 16, all in centimeter, being the circumference of the semicircle. And with that, we have solved question 11. Let us now solve question 12. Question 12a starts with this diagram. Please take note, this is not drawn to scale. In the diagram, P, Q, R, and S are points on a circle with center O. That is, this point O here is the center of the circle. And then we have P, Q, R, and S as points on the circle. We're given that QR is a parallel line to OS. So OS and QR are parallel, right? And then angle QOR, let's look for that. So QOR is 2m, right? Angle QPR, so QPR, this angle here is n, and SOR is 54 degrees. So find the value of m and n. So let's solve. Now, in order to solve this, we have to tidy out some parts first. We know that this line here, QO and OR are the same because they are radius to this circle, right? And one thing we know is that base angles are supposed to be equal, right? So first thing we need to know is that this angle here, which is OQR, is supposed to be equal to, now, this other angle, ORQ. And the reason is because they are what? Base angle of isosceles, right? So, but we are yet to know the size of that angle. So that is, if we can get any of these two, then we can easily know what the other one is. So let's work with that. So we also know that this line QR is parallel to OS according to this question. So since QR is parallel to OS, this implies that this angle here, this one here, is alternate to this. It implies that ORQ, right, equals SOR. And the reason for this is what? Alternate angles. Right? So please observe. You see, this angle here is equal to this angle here. They are alternate angles because these lines are parallel. And this line OR becomes a transversal that cuts through these parallel lines. So having stated that, we can then easily get this angle here. That implies that our ORQ equals 54 degrees. And by extension, this other angle here, which is OQR, is also 54 degrees. Right? And then when we bring that out as a triangle, here, where we have Q, R, and then O, with this being 2M, this being 54 degrees, and this being 54 degrees. We can use that to get our M using sum of angles in a triangle. That is 2M plus 54 plus 54 should give us 180 degrees. Now, this is what? Sum of angles of a triangle. Now, let's sum this. That is 2M plus, now 54 plus 54 will give us 108 degrees equals 180 degrees. So 2M becomes 180 degrees minus 108 degrees. So 2M equals, now when we find the difference here, we get it as 72 degrees. So dividing both sides by 2, M equals, now what is the value of this? 2 in 7, that is 3, remember 1, and then in 12 we have 6. So we have M equals 36 degrees. Now we've gotten M, let's find N. To find N, let's consider this chord QR. You see that chord QR subtends to the center and also to the circumference. Now there's a theorem that states that the angle that subtends to the center of a circle is twice that subtends to the circumference. That implies that 2M equals 2 of N. Angle at the circumference. Right? So applying that rule there, we then have twice of M. Now what is twice of M? That is 2 multiplied by 36 equals 2N. And this implies that N equals 36 degrees as well. So now we have solved for M and we have solved for N. Now let's go to 12b. Question 12b says the length of a rectangle is 4 centimeters more than the width. If the perimeter is 40 centimeters, find the area. So let's draw a rectangle. Let this be our rectangle and let us represent the width with W. We are told that the length is 4 centimeters more than the width, so that is here we'll have W plus 4, right? So we know that the product of these two should give us our area, but we need to find what W is first, and from that we can then find our length. So to do this, we will then equate the equation for the perimeter of a rectangle to this value we are given. Now, perimeter of a rectangle is supposed to be twice of L plus width, length plus width, right? So and when we apply this, we'll have twice of our length is what? W plus 4, then plus W. And all of this should equate with, remember we are told the perimeter is 40 centimeters. So this is 40 cm. So what we have here is 2 into 2W plus 4 equals 40 centimeters. Now when we expand this, we'll have 4W plus 8 equals 40 centimeters. So 4W equals 40 minus 8. So that is 4W equals, now when we subtract 8 from 40, we get 32. So dividing both sides by 4, the width is therefore going to be 8 centimeters. So our length is therefore width plus 4. And that is 8 plus 4 to give us 12 centimeters. So now let's find area. Area equals length times breadth. And that is going to be 12 centimeters multiplied by the width. The width is given as 8 centimeters from what we have calculated. And then when we multiply 8 by 12, we're going to have 96 centimeter squared. And with this, we have solved question 12. Let us solve question 13, which is the final question in the 2023 WASSCE Mathematics Core 2 question. Now, the first part of the question, 13a, has this diagram, which is not drawn to scale. We are told that in the diagram, the radius of the sector of circle of center O is 7 centimeters. Now, what this means is that this distance here is then 7 centimeters, and this is also 7 centimeters, right? And OM is also 7 centimeters. Okay. That is, the whole of this is 7 centimeters. So, but we don't know this distance, so we just can't put that there yet. Now, moving on, we are then told that angle MON is 60 degrees. That is, this angle here is 60 degrees. So, if this is 60 degrees, that implies that this part is therefore going to be 30 degrees, right? Since this is a 90. And then moving on from there, we are asked to find, correct to one decimal place, the area of the shaded portion, taking pi as 22/7. So that is, we are looking for the area of this shaded portion. Now, what we can see here is that OPN is a sector. ONT is a triangle. And the whole of OPN and M, all these parts are part of a sector, which the question has told us already. Okay, so working with this, if we have the area of this entire sector, and then we subtract the area of this smaller sector, that is OPN, and then the area of this triangle from the area of this sector, we should get the area of the shaded portion. So let's take it step by step. So first, let's find the area of the entire sector. Now, area of the sector is given as theta over 360 pi r squared. So this would give us, now the angle here is the theta, 30 and 60, to give us 90. So we have 90 over 360 multiplied by pi, which is given as 22/7 times r squared. Radius is 7, so 7 times 7. So easily 7 here 1, 7 here 1. So what we have is 1/4 times 22 times 7. And this would give us, now 22 multiplied by 7 is 154 over 4. And when we divide that by 4, we would get 38.5. Now this is in centimeter squared. That's the area of this entire sector. Now let's find area of this other sector. Area of sector OPN, right? And that will be theta over 360 times pi r squared as well. And the angle theta here is 30. So we have 30 degrees over 360 degrees multiplied by pi, which is 22 over 7 multiplied by 7 multiplied by 7. 7 here 1, 7 here 1. So what do we have here? So let's just do it straight. So 30 times 22 times 7 divided by 360. And then we have 12.83 centimeter squared. Now let's find the area of this triangle here. Area of triangle ONT. Now we know that is going to be half base, which is OT, times height, which is TN. Now in order to find OT and TN, what do we do? First, let's start by getting NT. To get NT, we see that NT is the opposite side of the right angle triangle, while this 7 centimeter becomes our hypotenuse, right? So when we are doing opposite and hypotenuse, that is sine. That is, sine 60 degrees should be opposite, which is NT, over hypotenuse, which is 7, which implies that NT equals, right? So that is our height in this case. NT is going to be 7 multiplied by sine 60 degrees. So NT therefore becomes, now what is 7 multiplied by sine 60? Sine 60 is 0.8667. So when we do that, we get 6.06 centimeter. Now let's look for this base here, which is OT. So to get OT, we're going to be using the cosine, because this is now adjacent side, right? So that is cos the same angle here, which is 60 degrees, equals, now adjacent over hypotenuse, which is OT over 7, which implies that OT equals 7 multiplied by cos 60 degrees. So OT is, now cos 60 is 0.5. 0.5 multiplied by 7 will give us 3.5 centimeters. So now the area of triangle ONT becomes 1 over 2 multiplied by the base. The base is OT, which is 3.5 centimeter, multiplied by the height, which is NT, and NT is 6.06 centimeters. So, and this would give us now 3.5 times 6.06 divided by 2, and we have 10.605 centimeter squared. So, area of shaded portion. Now, this is the difference of the area of the entire sector, that is the area of the sector minus the area of this triangle and this other smaller sector. So that would be, now the area of the entire sector itself is 38.5 centimeters squared minus, now we sum the area of these two portions together. So what did we have in the area of the smaller sector? We had 12.83 centimeters squared plus, now area of the triangle, 10.605 centimeters squared. Now this will give us 38.5 centimeters squared minus, now when we add that, let's see what we get. 12.83 plus 10.605. and that is 23.435. So our answer here becomes 38.5 minus that, and we have 15.065 centimeter squared. So that's the area of this shaded portion. Now to solve 13b, we are told that x and y intercepts of a straight line such that we have minus 3/4 and 2/7 respectively. So this x and y are the intercepts. This intercept stated here. So we have to find the equation of the line. Now normally equation of the line is y equals mx plus c. So meaning we have to find our m and we have to find our c to get the equation of this line. Now, what does this mean? When the intercept is negative 3/4, it means that at this point here, our y is 0, yx is minus 3/4. That is, the point would then be minus 3/4, 0, where this is our x and y. Then at this other intercept, we're going to be having 2/7, 0. Sorry, 0, 2/7. We always write x first, so 2/7. So please take note, always write the value of x before y when writing coordinates. So x, y, x, y. So here, y is 0, here y is 2/7, here x is minus 3/4, and here x is 0. So let's find our slope. M becomes y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? So picking any of the points here, so we can then start with this as, this can be our x2, y2, and then x1, y1. So if you do that, we'll have 0, y2 is 2/7 minus y1, which is 0, all over x2, 0 minus x1, minus 3/4. So from here we can then say our slope is, now when we subtract this, we have 2/7 divided by, minus times minus becomes plus, so this is 3/4. Now when we tidy this up, we would have 2 times 4 over 3 times 7. Now this will give us 8/21 as the slope, right? So now that we've gotten m, let's get our c. In order to get the value of c, we're going to apply this, right? That is, when x equals 0 and y equals 2/7, we can use that to get the value of c. So y, using our y equals mx plus c, y is 2/7 equals m. M is, where's our slope? Yes, 8/21 into x. X is 0 here, plus c. So all of this will give us 0. So that is c becomes 2/7. Now you can do this also with this other coordinate. It will still arrive at the same answer. Now when we get this, we can then say the equation of the line is therefore y equals m. M is what? 8/21. So x plus c, which is 2/7. You can then go on to make it a straight line equation if you like by multiplying through by 21. So when we multiply through by 21, you would have 21y equals, now 21 multiplied by this will give us 8x plus 21 multiplied by this will give us 6. So this would be the equation of the line. And with this, we have solved the entirety of the question in 2023 WASSCE Mathematics questions. Please share, like, and subscribe. Thank you.